Thank you for your indulgence. And I've had to turn the heat off because the heat makes a big noise, so I'm sitting here kind of cold too, so I'll move on. Anyway, part 2 of Hinkle TV, Mr. Hinkle TV. Back to active listening. Active listening, you have your eyes on the teacher. If you're reading out of a book, like a social studies book, and you're taking turns, when it comes your turn, you're supposed to, I expected you to know where we were. And this is one of the few things that I never figured out a way to approach in a positive fashion, because this was something that I expected for students to do. So I had a bad listener list. And if I was up on the board writing a social studies note for a review of the test, and I turned around and Pee-wee and Johnny were looking out the window, bingo, their name went on the bad listener list. That was a warning. If you just got your name in the bad listener list and there was no consequence, that was just to remind you, probably a little embarrassing to some kids. But if you got it, in very few kids after that reminder got a second or third check mark that week. So it really helped me teach them active listening, even if it was sort of a forceful teaching strategy. Anyway, and if you were a bad listener a second time, then you went last for seconds. There was some consequence. Responsibility. You have to insist that they are responsible and reward good responsibility, or demonstrations of responsibility, perhaps I should say, and poor responsibility or irresponsibility, if that's a word, there needs to be a consequence. And we'll talk just a bit more about that when we get to Lee Cantor and his assertive discipline programs. Cooperation, you got to cooperate. And I don't care if Johnny and Billy's moms are having a fight in the trailer park or whatever, you have to insist that they cooperate. Respect. Again, this can get back to your modeling. If you respect them, then they're going to be more likely to learn respect towards you and respect towards their classmates. Organization. There are many programs out there, that you can look up, but that has to be taught. You can't assume at whatever level that they know even what organized means. So that's something that I put in my list of 5 school skills. Here are some strategies that I used that made me the effective teacher that I felt like that I was. Peer tutoring. Whenever possible, use other kids to teach their classmates. A couple examples. Every Monday morning, and this gets to classroom management as well, every Monday morning when the students came into the classroom, on their desk was a cumulative math test that covered all the math skills that we had up until that point. I think I started it after about a month. And they knew that they must enter the room, put away their coats or whatever, depending on the weather and so on, and sit down and begin on their math test. No questions, no, this is what I did this weekend. No, and that may sound a little harsh, but that set a tone for the rest of the week. And if I was your teacher or your principal, that I believed in fun at school too. But also, you have to have some, what I call a control factor. And I'll speak to that in just a little bit later, if I have time. And I don't forget. So, this cumulative math test was just maybe one of the best ideas I ever came up with for more than just classroom management, because many teachers I know, they would teach 5 or 6 math skills and maybe in a month, and then they would move on and they would hardly ever go back and review until the achievement test rolled around. Not a good idea, especially in math. Pre-testing. Kids do not like to be taught something they already know. Mr. Hinkle does not like to be taught something he already knows, even when I was a student. So you pre-test them. If they know it, then they can go off and have to a learning center or have some free time or play some sort of semi-educational board game, or now you've got computers. So it would, and the kids who didn't pass the pre-test, peer tutoring. I could work with them individually. Some kids, that's the only way they learn, is a one-on-one experience. Another thing that I used that was fun and much less boring than answering 10 questions on the story you just read, or the social studies chapter you just read, was a comprehension game. It was kind of a cross between Jeopardy and some game shows, but it was fun. Next, science, hands-on. Science must be hands-on. And that's something else that I would get into more detail if you have a question. Okay, one of the first things that I would do every first day the kids were there, would guide them in leading to make a class constitution, our class rules. You must guide them because they'll get it. I've had classes come up with 27 or 28 different rules. You probably only need about 10. Read the Lee Cantor stuff. He speaks to that. And you must also have some rewards and consequences. And again, I can't teach you in this forum about Lee Cantor, but I cannot stress the fact enough. Please take a look at this link. Even if you have your own discipline plan or you learn something, a discipline plan for somebody else, you can learn some things by reading this. It'll probably take you a half hour to read this whole little web page. And these must be posted where kids can see. And it must be something else that I use. One of the longest running discipline programs that I used were Hinkle Bucks. And I'm sure some of you all remember that. And everybody got like 5 or 6 Hinkle Bucks on Monday morning after the math test. And if you broke a rule, bingo, you lose a Hinkle Buck. And you get a little number on the chart depending on what rule you broke. What's the way of keeping track of it? Well, every Friday I had an auction. And I would auction off, sometimes textbook companies would send boxes and boxes of stuff. There would be binders in there. And yeah, sometimes I'd buy candy and just different things. And actually hold an auction on Friday. And the more Hinkle Bucks you accumulated, the better chance you had to get that good prize. And sometimes there were some good prizes. Another thing that I've used school-wide at James R. Allen, but it also works very effectively in a single classroom, is the bug program, being unusually good. And this is a very positive thing because you don't get a bug unless you're caught being unusually good. So it's a very positive, proactive way of discipline. And again, you can find this in a book. Lee Cantor's Assertive Discipline. I've taught workshops, I've taught it to teachers, bus drivers, teachers' aides, and administrators, and used it on kids. It was, 85-90% of the discipline plan or plans that I used. This guy was amazing. And the assertive discipline is a misnomer in a way, and again, he speaks to that on his website. Now, a couple things I would do in the first day after we developed this class constitution, and probably go take a restroom break, because it takes a while to guide them and to get them to understand that these are the set of rules that we're going to live by in our classroom, and hopefully by giving their input with your guidance, it helps them own it, you might say. Good idea after that is a name game. You got to get to know all the kids' names, and maybe all of them don't know the other kid's name. There's all kinds of those out there on the internet. There's now, perhaps you can hear my dog outside barking. He's going to have to come in, but I'm almost at the end. I hope the batteries have not died. Then talk about the coolest, just one thing, the coolest thing they did during the summer. You don't want to get into the kind of thing, what did you do in your summer vacation? Or I didn't like that, maybe you do. Although you do need to come up with that first day or two, probably the first day, some kind of writing exercise, some kind of writing prompt because one of the first things you need to do is sort of like a pretest, is to assess where they stand in the area of creative writing or using correct grammar and all those things. And I think that brings me to the end. I'll only quickly review. Smile a lot. Stay positive but sincere. And have high expectations. Use Lee Cantor's assertive discipline, and don't forget multiple intelligences, because we all know that some kid, I almost forgot it, some kids are good at basketball but can't do much in the classroom as far as academics, and vice versa. Lee Cantor will help you better understand how to make use of each individual's intelligence that they possess. Some have one or two, some have all of them. But again, I'll put a link on to where you can get more information about Lee Cantor's assertive discipline. Again, thanks Miss Wright for asking me. I hope this helps a little bit. If you or anybody who sees this video has any questions or wants more information, contact me via Facebook. Thank you, and let's check that battery.